You would never go to the Olympics without a coach. So life is way harder than the Olympics. So why would you go through life or business without a coach?
Welcome to the Bucket List Life Podcast with Trav Bell, the world's #1 bucket list expert. Bucket List Life's mission is to help you get off the treadmill, stop Groundhog Days, hack your habits, and live a regret-free life. Because we know life's way too short not to live your bucket list life. So please welcome your host, Trav Bell, the Bucket List Guy.
Hey Bucket Listers, welcome to another episode of the Bucket List Life Podcast, and I'm your host, Trav Bell, the Bucket List Guy, and I'm stoked, honoured to have Nat Cook with us today. Nat Cook, how are you?
Trav, well, I'm just as honoured because I've been watching the Bucket List Guy for decades, and I'm so honoured to be on your pod. Thanks for having me.
I wish I could show my gold medal, but I cannot. And I wish I could show my 5-time Olympian jacket, but I cannot. Only you can. And that's why we've got you on here. Well, let me show
you there, because here you go. I will show you early. It usually comes out.
Look at that. Boom.
It even shines in the screen if you're watching on the video. Otherwise, you have to just visualize.
There you go.
Olympic gold medals being shown right now.
Mate, you dragged that one out after we've crossed paths. We've crossed paths on many occasions on the speaking circuit, and we've shared the stage on a few. And I can't like that was 2000 that you and Kerry pretty much put beach volleyball on the map, right? And we'll dig into that. But what I want to, it is literally 24 years later, and you're still so relevant. And there's not many athletes who've won the gold medal who are on the speaking circuit still and are still relevant. And you've been busy as a one-armed drummer.
Yeah. Well, relevance is probably the most important thing I look for to the evolution of me as a brand, to me as a person, to me as an athlete. I still do identify as an athlete, even though I'm not at Olympic level, but I'm doing taekwondo with my daughter who's 8. I'm doing pickleball. I'm playing golf. I'm doing yoga. So I still do wake up every morning, consider myself an athlete. But how do I relate in the world to that, and how do I relate to people I speak to off a stage and interact with every day? I've learned through hanging out with people like you how to stay relevant, and it is about learning their stories, being more interested in them than interesting, and curiosity and all of those things that I've learned as a human and an athlete along the way. So plus I'm so interested in helping this next generation that it just keeps me fired up.
Oh, I tell you what, we're going to dig into that. And that is so fascinating, your Aussie Athlete Fund, hence the T-shirt. And, I've done my research. I've got a bunch of questions about that. So, yeah, look, and you've reiterated this story so many times. There's a couple of memorable things from the 2000 Olympics. Obviously the swimming, obviously Kathy Freeman, but you guys getting gold down there. It was on Bondi, wasn't it?
Yep. Iconic.
That was so cool, and we really didn't have an industry sport recognition before you guys were on the scene. So safe to say you guys really put it on the map. And tell me, what was it like to win a gold medal at the Sydney Olympics and put it on the map as you did?
Yeah, well, you touched on 24 years ago. I mean, I was 25, so it's almost half my life ago. It is. It does viscerally feel like it was yesterday. So I can feel the sand between my toes. I can feel the adrenaline when I think about it and watch it on TV. And it kind of makes me a little bit nervous. I don't think I was that nervous back then because you're so focused and you're so trained. I'm untrained and detrained right now, but in that mindset of doing everything you can, leaving no stone unturned to achieve. I mean, ultimately back then we call it our goal or our dream or our gold medal goal, but it was a bucket list item. I was 8 years old and I said, watching the TV, watching Lisa Curry, a swimmer.
Yes, of course.
Win the 100 metres freestyle in the 1982 Commonwealth Games. And I said, I want to do that, right? And I didn't know that I would navigate through every single sport at school in PE and then come out the other side choosing ultimately volleyball and then beach volleyball. But to be with Kerry Pothast in your home country for an Olympic Games is very rare, and then to win is next level. So to hear the famous chant, the Aussie, Aussie, Aussie.
Oi, oi, oi.
Yes, Trav, very good. To hear that kind of vibrate through your body makes you jump higher, run faster, and to see the last point, like to have it go out, have the referee call out, to know that your childhood dream has come true was just an epic moment in life, every emotion coming together. And, you know, I'd do it again tomorrow if they'd let me.
The lead up, you won a bronze, bronze in 96.
Yep.
So, and that was in, what was it, Barcelona, I think?
Barcelona 92, Atlanta 96.
That's right.
First time beach volleyball was ever in the Games.
Yeah. And I'm stoked that last Olympics, surfing is now an Olympic sport. Yes.
Yes.
So, look, the lead up to...
Well, speaking of that, Trav, that's the beauty of relevance, right? The Olympic Games has had to become and stay more relevant and put in some of these new, and surfing's not new, but new sports into the roster that attracts a new audience. Surfing has its own culture, its own esteem, and then they've done skateboarding and rock climbing. So it's really becoming more relevant to the youth, more relevant to different genres and different parts of society. So I think we all need to continue to stay relevant.
And here's I've got so many questions right here, and I'm jumping now. So I'm going to say, as director of the Brisbane 2032 Olympic and Paralympic Games, how many directors are there, by the way?
There's a lot because it's a big job. There's 22 of us, and normally if you do your director's course, they say 7 to 9 is a good number. So we've blown that out of the water. But we've picked up, we've got someone that represents all of the diversity and inclusion that needs to happen, from the Paralympic side to First Nations to climate change to there's sort of someone on there to represent everything, which is why it's so large.
What's your role?
Well, I advocate strongly for the athlete, even though over my 24 years since winning a gold medal, I've learned a lot about business and other areas of life. They continue to put me in the athlete bucket, which I guess I have the loudest voice, the strongest voice, the most passionate voice about the athlete needing more funds, needing more resources, needing more support. So that tends to be in the boardroom. They go for about 4 hours. At 3 hours and 55 minutes, there's usually Nat knocking on the door or the table going, "Excuse me, Chair, can we talk about the athlete?" Which ultimately is what these games are all about. But, there's a lot. An Olympic Games and a Paralympic Games is so big, it touches every business industry in the world. I would challenge you to find me a business industry that won't be a part of the Olympic Games. But to think 2032 in Brisbane, a home games, we haven't had one since Sydney, so it's 32-year gap. I'm super excited for that generation of surfers and volleyballers that are going to get to play and compete at home.
Yeah, we've got Paris this year, 2024. Then we've got LA in 2028. Are you involved in Paris and LA in the lead-up?
Yeah, I'll be in Paris. I'll be in Paris with the World Olympians board, where I sort of represent all Olympians living. There's about 110,000 of us all over the world. We have this amazing reunion centre called OLY, which is our post-nominal letters, OLY House. So I'll be at the house. I'll be escorting and chaperoning sponsors and taking my family, and also for the first time seeing a Paralympics in Paris, which I've never done. So I'm pretty excited.
Skip to this question. If you ran the Olympics, you had the decision-making ability to run the Olympics, what would you change in this modern era? You have the power.
The power, yes. Well, that is a great and insightful question. I would probably talk about athletes and give more. It is traditionally not, athletes don't get paid to go to the Olympics. So if anyone thought that there was money exchange, there's not. It is for the pride and the power of the green and gold jersey for me and the red and white for Canada, and you represent your country. So even the big NBA stars and the golfers that get paid a lot of money, they play in the Olympic Games for the medal. So I think whilst that has been traditionally a great thing, I think we need to shake up the model there, and we need to understand how to build an athlete economy in the Olympic movement. And that you can't feed yourself and house yourself on an Olympic medal. And some do it very well, and some have learned to extract financial return. But we really need to work out how to do that from the top down. And that, as the boss of the Olympics, that's what I would do.
Nice one. I'm sure there's a few other things that you'd... We'll circle back to, because, we're leading into the Aussie Athlete Fund, but I kind of want to finish on that, because I dare say would you say that's your call to action right now? That's what you want to, really promote, your Aussie Athlete Fund, but I want to go, how do you go back to you winning the Olympics, to the gold medal? What sort of team gets around you at that point in time? And you would have got pulled in all sorts of different directions, and you obviously gone motivational speaker route as one of them. But what were the options open to you at that point in time back then, and which have stood the test of time?
Yeah, this is a challenge for most athletes that don't know what they're doing after. They wrap themselves up in this athlete identity, and then they're not thinking till the end, which, as we know, is too late, about what happens next, because there's this big void. So for me, our sport we would call it third world. It didn't have a big industry. It didn't have a lot of money. So I always knew I needed something else. So I ran the financial side of my business as a beach volleyballer on the side. And I worked out real early, Trav, that corporate speaking was where you could leverage your time for the most money in what I did. And so that started in 1996 after we won our bronze medal, and I went around, I did a 3-day course on how to speak. Now we know how to speak.
I think at that point in time.
Well, that's how we started. And then I started telling my story. I really loved engaging with an audience. And so I've been doing that since 1996. So that's how 28 years, Trav. And so that's built my financial system, but there wasn't much. Like some sports go into commentary. My volleyball partner, Kerry, commentates for the Olympics, but that's once every 4 years.
And she gets on, I'm good mates with Kerry. And was she on a Survivor or Celebrity Get Me Out of Here or something like that recently?
She did SAS, which is the hard one. I'm like, I would watch with my hand over my eyes thinking, what are you doing? Don't hurt
a cooking show or something like that, or something a little bit more.
Well, she loved to sing in the shower. She could have done a masked singer or something, right?
Yeah. God damn it. Tell me, and I think there's really only a handful that I can think of, being on the speaking circuit, both nationally and internationally. We'll talk nationally. You, Kerry, to a certain extent, and also Stephen Bradbury. He's everywhere, and last man standing. And if you don't know who Stephen Bradbury is, in the finals of the speed skating Winter Olympics, of which Australia has no place being there really, and everyone fell over, and there was 4 of them. Everyone else fell over in front of him, and he won the gold medal famously. And his first ever winter gold medal for Australia too. So this scene was set for him, and he's done such a fantastic job to build that. Yeah. He's awesome. Yeah. And I think, again, I've shared the stage with Stephen, and he's stayed relevant. He's, it's unreal. So you've seen a lot of, I guess, speakers, other gold medalists, etc., who are on the circuit. My biggest question is, how does winning a gold medal, and everyone sits there at the end and holds it and, puts it around the neck, gets selfies, etc. We don't even call them photos anymore. We just call them selfies. How is that relevant? Tell me your message, because I know it's really powerful and is relevant. How is winning a gold medal relevant to the middle-level manager sitting in the audience, up to here in Bills, 2.3 kids at home, living in the suburbs, married? How is winning a gold medal and the messages and the come up and the journey and the aftermath to a certain extent, how is that relevant to the average person? I won't say in the Matrix, but let's just go with that.
Perfect. I love that movie too. So it is all about aspiration. So when I get on stage, it's firstly the energy. So they feel me come onto stage, and it's the passion. It's setting an aspirational goal. And I live the bucket list. Meeting you and having a bucket list, my dad told me that was for things you want to do before you kick the bucket, right? As you know. And I said, well, why am I waiting? Right? So if you are sitting in your desk and you're sitting with your family and it's overwhelming, what is the aspirational goal? What is your Olympic gold medal moment? And so that's what I start with. What is it that you would like to get out of? And it's dreaming, right? So sometimes, and this is what I find, the more I talk to people, some people get overwhelmed and disengage because they feel the gap is too big from the dream to the reality. Others then get inspired, and I want them to get inspired with this vortex of, well, if I want that in my life, what are the 3 steps now I can take? It might be a phone call to someone. It might be looking for a new job. It might be being entrepreneurial. It might be finding new friends. Like, you have to be prepared to change if you want some of these seriously aspirational things in your life, right? If you've got on your bucket list to take your family to Africa for a safari, you've got to do something different. You can't sit in what you're currently sitting in and expect a different result. So that's what I shift and shake a little bit. I try and get them to put in stretch goals and Olympic gold medal goals. And I say, if I come back next year to hand out Olympic gold medals, the goal has to be specific. I don't want some airy-fairy goal. It has to be specific so that I can just hand out gold medals, right? So I speak to that. I speak about the plan and the map needed to get there, the motivational cycles required to go to 5 Olympics. You need 20 years of staying in, and it doesn't always go to plan. Actually, as you know, it rarely goes to plan. So what do you do next? So it's understanding all of that, putting a map together, having an aspirational goal, working towards it, being okay when it goes pear-shaped, and getting back up again. So that's sort of the messaging, with stories and jokes and superheroes in there as well, because you need a good favourite superhero.
Definitely. Do you have a process or something that you like to impart with people? You know, you talked about the motivational cycles there. Do you have some, some way of explaining that to people?
Well, my main mechanism and tool is the Gold Medal Excellence Map. It literally is...
What's that all about?
It's a plan on a page. So if you're in the business world, it's your plan on a page. It has, for me, with the Olympics as the focus, it has the rings on the page, and in each of the Olympic rings, it has my purpose. It has a guiding question. It has our winning way, which is some of the technical things that need to happen because every person is different. So mine spoke volleyball. Yours would speak how to get your bucket list. Someone else in a different sport would be technically about footy, or if you're running an energy company, you'd have technical, the winning way. And then your standard. So this is really important. Your standard, how you want to be, how you show up in the world. And the last circle is relational interaction, which we know network is so important. In order to achieve your bucket list and some of the things you want to do in life, you need a network, and you need to get out behind your desk and go and do some of the things that sometimes might have you feel uncomfortable. So we go through, we have a brand name, we have a theme song, we have a tagline. So we literally make our gold medal goal a brand, like a footy team with a footy jersey, and then we're attached emotionally to it a bit more. So that's the process. And then to teach through the motivation cycles is just basically understanding a timeline of when that is and working backwards.
I love that. You make it really visceral and kinesthetic, and, and having them embody that. I can see that really working. And we've done a lot of courses. Like I said before, we shared this stage. Talk to me about the role of coaches in your life. Then obviously we've got coaches in volleyball and etc. But, you and I know, well, you had a coach that I know, Dwayne, and he was a performance coach. And it was really interesting kind of when I met you, back in the day. So what is this NLP guru, Dwayne and Chris, what do they got to do with Nat? She's pretty switched on with why do they need, why do you need a performance coach at that kind of level? Do you want to unpack the role of coaches and how they've kind of come and gone within the seasons, the different stages of your life as well? And like you said before, 5-time Olympian, your motivation cycle, you've got to have employed the services of different people around you to get you. I mean, you're pretty freaking determined anyway, but the role of having a coach or a team of coaches.
Yeah, but so important. I would never set about my gold medal goal without a coach. Like, you would never go to the Olympics without a coach. So life is way harder than the Olympics. So why would you go through life or business without a coach?
Do you want to repeat? Do you want to just let's just pencil that in, ladies and gentlemen? If you're watching and listening, just say that again, Nat.
So this is the whole thing. When we gold medal goal, want to go to the Olympics, the first thing we need in our team is a coach. Would never, ever go to the Olympics without a coach. Now, life and business is harder than the Olympics. So why would you ever do life or business without a coach? It's just ridiculous. So first thing you need.
Drop the mic.
Drop the mic.
But to get a coach, you've got to admit something to yourself, don't you?
Yes. So Kerry and I admit, firstly, I didn't know enough about volleyball and we wanted someone to watch the other team. So the other part is we would play and the other team that we wanted to play next was on a different court. So you needed another set of eyes, which meant they could get a different view of Kerry and I and a different view of the opposition, and then just bring our thoughts together on how the professionals at the Olympics train so that they don't get it wrong. Amateurs train till they get it right, and then they quit, right? They're like, oh, done that. We train so much so that our volleyball skills, the basic fundamentals of volleyball, we can do in our sleep, and then it all becomes about emotional intelligence, volleyball intelligence, all of those other things, relational, how we relate to Kerry, was so important at the top level. Now, our first guy, Steve, was our volleyball coach. We then realised we needed to niche. So Steve was great. He talked about the champion's toolbox. And if you're going to build a house, you couldn't just use a hammer. You had to get a saw and a drill and a chisel, and you have to build your toolbox. Steve was our hammer. We then needed to go and find a saw. We needed a strength and conditioning coach to work on our body to make sure we didn't fall apart. So Phil was our next coach. And then we also, for volleyball, we had a mindset success coach called Keurig. So that was our volleyball unit to make us successful. So you have to keep building and niching. As you climb higher on whatever ladder you are, you need more specific and more niche coaches. Absolutely.
Definitely. And what about these days? Do you have a coach or coaches? I know you do a lot of coaching. For you personally?
Absolutely. So I now have an executive coach, and he is an Olympian, Toby Jenkins. He went to the Olympics for water polo in 2004. And I was sort of, there was a period where I thought I had it all together and I didn't need a coach. Right? I've been coached. I've been overcoached. I've got all my tools.
I'm the guru.
And I know, why would I need someone? So that you do go through those phases.
Sure.
And I ran into Toby. I was talking about the athletes and I said, Toby, can you help the athletes? He said, actually, the thing I can do for you is help you focus your attention to win the biggest rocks, to unearth the biggest rocks instead of going around trying to pick up pebbles, which is what I was doing, picking up pebbles. So Toby and I now have every 2 weeks he's coaching me. It's amazing. As you move through different parts of your life, you need different support services. So I have a mentor group as well, and mentors don't always have to, this is the one thing I've learned, they don't always have to be physically present in our life. It can be a book, it can be a podcast, it can be a movie, and you just read and follow. Richard Branson's one, Brad Sugar's is one. I love Pink, the singer and entertainer, so I get a lot of my energy from watching Pink. And so it's building a little mentor And Richard Branson talks about the elders, right? So I've got my own group of elders.
Yeah, look, it's actually funny because, funny you should mention that. I say, I've been part of this quite a few times. I've spoken about it out loud. Is imagine you're the CEO of your own life, right? And you're running You Inc., right? You Pty Ltd, You LLC in America. And you've got a board of directors, you've got a board. And as the CEO of a listed company, you've got to front up to the board every month and give the report on what you've got planned, the preview and the review. But what you do at that monthly meeting is you ask the board for advice. And over the years, I've had people create their own little boards. Like, for instance, if you've got a health challenge, who are the 4 people that you'd love to have around your board that you could, whether they're alive or dead, whether they're accessible or not accessible, whether they're on a podcast, an author, speaker, doesn't matter. But if you ask the right questions of that board for that specific area of your life, what would you do in this situation? You'll probably get the answers pretty quick, right?
That's awesome. I totally agree in every area, and back when you and I were doing those courses, there was a circle with 8 little areas from spiritual to financial to relationship. And so finding people in that, and you might only need to ask for advice on one specific area once a year, but you've got to have them in your board. So
intuitively, you know the answers of what, I've got Richard Branson on one of my boards, Tim Ferriss on one of my boards. I've got access to Brad and that you just mentioned. And there's a few other people, there's a wealth board, there's a health board, there's a leadership board, etc. I've even got a speaker board, 4 speakers that you put around a table. What would you guys do in this case, and girls? And it's like intuitively you get the answer straight away. So I challenge everyone who's out there listening and watching to create, to identify, 1, the area that you want to close the gap on the most, and 2, to identify a board. And Nat could probably be on about 4 of those boards for you, just FYI, in terms of her knowledge and leadership. So, and she's accessible and she's alive. So that's a good thing. But Nat, also talk to me about like mindset coaches over the years as well, because you talk about that and, that's interesting. It's not just a volleyball coach. It's not about how to peak for the Olympics, but mindset coaching. How does that play in?
Well, a long time ago, somebody said volleyball is 10% and the mindset is 90. And I think it started at 80-20, but I actually think going through it 5 times, it is absolutely 90% of the game of life, of the game of volleyball, golf, tennis is mindset. And so the challenge way back 30 years ago when we started, we'd spend 4 hours a day doing dig, set, spike and no minutes doing mindset. And then that most people do that. They do the grind work of what's on the to-do list without sitting back, whether it's meditation, yoga, is actually how to start the practice. And then you get in to understand the technical side of mindset. How do you reframe? How do you focus on positives? How do you set the right intention? Now the 101s of mindset. Then getting into relational mindset with someone else. Like it's sort of okay for you to be in your best shape, but then how do you help others get in their best shape? Because that's how the world gets better, right? I don't win unless others win in life now. And volleyball used to be a win-lose game. Most sports are win-lose, but unless you play 5 days of cricket and you can still lose or tie. But I now play a game in life that I try and win-win. I try to have everyone that I come in contact with win. And it's a real different mindset shift and understanding how to do that in life. And so mindset coaches are so important. From Chris Howard to Dwayne, you talked about, to Anthony Robbins, to Keurig, who was my mindset coach.
Keurig,
Ashley.
Yeah, for sure.
And those tips and tools, like you don't retain everything, but there's key milestone tips and tools and strategies that remain with you for life. Like I'm 25 years on from when I started with Keurig Ashley, and I still use the basic 101s of mindset.
Look, so prevalent, and it's never changed. And I guess, to employ the services of a coach. And yeah, Nat and I were both coaches, and we coach one-to-many via the stage. But you've got to go, and I've got coaches as well for different things, for different seasons, different goals, that I've got as well. But there has to be some, waving of the white flag and saying, you know what, I don't know it all. I'm hungry to close this gap from where I am to where I want to be. And I think the biggest ego drop that I've ever had to do, I spent 20 years in the personal fitness training industry, founded and franchised a chain of personal training studios around Australia. Did that for 20 years before I became the bucket list guy, or someone called me the bucket list guy. Point is, I've recently taken on the services of a personal trainer, even though I've been in the personal training industry. And it's like, interesting. And he's telling me stuff that I was telling clients years ago, but I've just got to shut up and listen and do. And what a coach does is bring that objectivity, because you're so subjective in your own head. Objectivity, you can see the forest from the trees, and accountability. Oh, but I'm pretty motivated. Nah, dude, you still need your ass kicked. You still need to be held accountable and put deadlines in front of you.
Absolutely. Trav, I'm the same. I even yoga, I could get an app, but unless I go to the studio, get out of bed, go to the studio and have the teacher and the coach, I won't do it. It sits in my app and I'm like, I should do that. Same with nutrition. I know what I'm supposed to eat. We all know, we can Google it, but to have someone that you have to get on a call for and talk to about what, especially as I go through life, I get older, I'm a female, menopause, premenopause, all of that, is I don't know that. I've never been through that. So you talked about waving the white flag. I think what's really important too is being able to identify out front and get out ahead of this wave before it crashes and you're in the white water on the bottom of the ocean trying to wave the flag.
Beautiful.
While you're surfing the best wave in the world, wave the flag and get the support around you, because it's, as you know, if you've had something go to pear-shaped and you're in difficult decisions, it's hard to make good decisions when you're in difficult situations.
Perfect.
So build this board, build the board you're talking about, get your little team ready, have someone there to go to, so that when it does go in the motivational cycles down into the valley, what goes up must come down. Trampolinists will tell you that you've got everyone ready and you're not searching desperately then.
That is perfectly said. Yeah, perfectly said. Nothing to add. Aussie Athlete Fund. Let's talk about it. Namesake of the T-shirt there. I'm fascinated with this and I've done my research. Look, and I'm surprised by some of the statistics that are on the website. Statistic one is the average athlete lives below the poverty line, under 23K a year. You founded it, yeah? Why'd you set it up?
Well, it's sort of my story. From an 8-year-old, I learned how to fundraise by asking grandma for money, right? I didn't know that's what was happening. So I've been fundraising 41 years. That tells you how old I am. And the evolution of that, my father at the age of 15, when I was the peak of my volleyball career at 15, wanting to go to Tasmania from Brisbane to Tasmania for the Queensland volleyball trip, was $1,000. And I said, Dad, I've just made the Queensland team. Here's my letter. It's $1,000. And he said, we can't afford it. You can't go. And so that moment was a game changer for me. I realized that if I was going to, because it wasn't just that year, it's every year it's coming. And the better, as I said earlier, the better you get, the more money you need, the more trips you go on. And this is the same for most of our Aussie athletes. There are very small numbers of sports. Let's take out the professional sports and let's look at Olympic, Paralympic and lower participated sports. We got table tennis, taekwondo, BMX, skateboarding, water polo, hockey. And so the stats done by the Australian Sports Foundation, they did a survey of over 1,000 athletes, $23,000 total combined income from when they scrape it all together. Because, you know, you're trying to be the best in the world. You do need to apply yourself. You do need to train. You do need to recover. You need to eat. You probably eat a lot, especially if you're a male water polo player. And parents these days can't afford it. Single parents can't afford it. And there's not enough money in the system to help support the athlete. So Harry, 18-year-old water polo player, comes home and says, Mum, So remember, I did this 30 years ago. Mum, made the team. Here's my letter. The letter now says, Trav, wait for it, $20,000 to represent Australia for 1 year in water polo.
Oh, my God.
So what happened when I went on the board, Brisbane, and this fund is separate to the Olympics. We are just a disclaimer. It's got nothing to do with the Olympics. It's about grassroots Aussie athletes. But I knew that I had to do something. I knew I had the voice, the advocacy, the capacity, and the desire to change this. And my goal,
definitely see your passion.
Yeah, my goal by 32 is to have changed the game so there's a sustainable athlete economy around every athlete that chooses to represent Australia. Now, that'll be fundraising. It'll be working. We got to get flexible job opportunities, because I retired after 5 Olympics and 2 medals, $300,000 in debt, no superannuation, no job, no degree, but I was really good on stage. So that, at least I had that.
Thank God. Wow. But thank you for, thanks. No, just pause there for a second. Thanks for being so transparent about this, because, you know, I grew up as a swimmer. I think that's nearly even worse, isn't it?
Well, they're a bit more. There is a supporter, a philanthropist supporter, Gina Reinhardt, that helps swimming, that helps rowing, that she is involved in volleyball as well, and artistic swimming. So she's chosen that level of support.
Oh, God. Artistic
so
swimming?
the top swimmers are definitely taken care of. And it's like you said earlier, it's our number 1 Olympic sport here. So it's very profiled. There's more opportunity, but often for a handful. Often you can name them all, and then there's 45 others in the team that nobody knows about.
Yeah, there's them, the top 5, and then everyone else. Yeah, you kind of, you know, as a parent to 4 kids, the kids come home and it's like, you know, so what sport are you interested in? And me growing up being a jock, yeah, you have that. All right, professionals. Is it a professional sport or is it an Olympic sport? You know, like if you grow up as a swimmer, then there's very few opportunities, and there's, you know, but hey, golf, let's do it. Tennis, let's go. You know.
Well, that's what's happening too, especially for girls in this growth of women's sport. There's more opportunities in AFL, netball, cricket. Cricket is now
Soccer's going off.
Yeah, soccer's going off. So if your kids come home and say they want to do one of those, you'd be like, sure. But if your kid come home and said, I want to play field hockey, and I'm trained to say field hockey now because there is ice hockey, which has a different initiative in other parts of the world. But if my daughter came home and said field hockey, I'd be like, no, they get $110 a week. That's it.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
To be the best in the world to train for their country. So now, instead of I've been talking to government, I've been talking to all those areas as well for years. I then decided that I could, if not me, who, if not now, when, and I could make a difference. And I get overwhelmed every night about how many there are to help. And so I have to bring my focus back, which Toby helps me. Let's help one at a time. Let's build a system that can help many and teach them how to fish. So we've built a fundraising academy on demand video system so they can learn the basics, and then they get coached over the top by me in a $1 million challenge that we've just launched. So I'm pretty excited, and I hope we can make a difference, not only get the money in their hand to help pay for some of these escalating cost of living costs and escalating travel costs, but also to help them learn how to build their own board of directors, how to find their own coaches, how to pick up rocks and find money under rocks, how to have the money tree out the back, Trav. That's
also like how to build their brand, you know, through social media and gain reach and stuff. That's got to be so relevant these days, right?
Absolutely. And that's why we have a podcast as well called The Price You Pay, the real story, what it takes to get to the games. And so we're interviewing these young athletes and their parents, or the athletes and our business that's helping them, and telling their stories that they normally don't get to tell.
Wow.
That helps boost their brand. That helps them tell their story to a sponsor. And yeah, we are matching for 2024. We are working to match 100 athletes with 100 businesses. They start from zero, and the goal is that together that team raises $10K each, and that'll generate $1 million in our challenge in the economy. And the best part about that is they create their own map. So back to our map.
Very cool.
They now have an athlete fundraising map that we coach them through to be able to go and find how they're going to make their $10,000. So they've got a period of time and there's awards at the end.
Wow.
And we're looking forward to doing that every year.
Okay, so I'll go on the business side. How do I fund, how can I donate as a business?
So our Aussie Athlete Fund website has a big gold donate button up the top, and that goes straight into our Australian Sports Foundation page, and it's tax deductible. So any donation there is tax deductible. That will go into the fund. The next part is a business. If you have a look on the website and the $1 Million Challenge part of the website, you can see that you can sign up an expression of interest to help be paired in a team with an athlete.
Wow, cool.
And so that you can go, hey, I'm a small, medium, large business and I'm going to go and you can choose trampoline, taekwondo, BMX, surfing. You can put your preferences in there and we work hard to match you into the challenge.
Cool. So my business can sponsor an athlete.
Yes. And you can help them with money. You can help them with their map. You can help them with time and resources and networks.
Oh, wow.
And so some are doing golf days. Some are doing a boardroom lunch. A hairdresser's giving $5 a haircut for 6 months. Let's see how we go, right? So that everything's going to be different. Morning teas, raffle tickets. It's all ideas are welcome.
That's such a cool idea. And if your athlete, mate, got an Olympic gold medal, that's some serious bragging rights there too. I love that. And as an athlete, how do I get matched, paired? How do I get a scholarship?
Yeah, so the same thing on the Aussie Athlete Fund website, it'll say, I'm a business or I'm an athlete. So will you go on the athlete page, you fill in your dreams, your budget. You might have a business you've already got that you'd like to work with, or you want a type of business, because that helps me, right? Rather than going around in the dark trying to find a match. If an athlete says, they might be a climber and then they want to be with a outdoor climbing brand or a brand that matches values. That's really important. You've got to have someone that's on the same page, and it can help me go and find that business. So
very cool.
Really cool. Is about the athletes are so excited because they also get a network. They get to know they're not alone. There's others out there in the same situation, and they get to build their skills. And one of the biggest things, not only will they go over 10K, which is the goal, but they'll have more confidence in themselves. They'll have more confidence in how to ask for money, who to ask for money. And the most important one, when someone says no, what do you do next?
Go to someone else.
Yeah, exactly, Trav. That is exactly. And a lot of them get upset. They're like, oh, they said no. That must mean they don't like me. There's all these.
That's a life skill 101 right there. That's amazing. That's really cool. That's so good. Yeah. What's the average age of the athletes?
We've got anyone from, we've got a 10-year-old diver through to a 30-year-old water polo player that's a mum, and she's actually on the cusp of making the team for Paris. So everywhere in between, and some are at school. We have a 16-year-old breakdancer that's made the team to go to Paris, and he's still at school. And
breakdancing is a sport at the Olympics?
First time ever in Paris. It may be the last. So what happens is you get to choose, each host country gets to choose 5 non-core sports. So
wow,
that's how surfing got in. So originally in Tokyo, it was surfing, skateboarding, karate, and baseball and softball are actually out of the games, and they came back in on this in Tokyo. They're out for Paris. So breaking, it's called breaking, and we will see breaking for the first time ever. And we have one Aussie girl and one Aussie guy. As
a child of the 80s and a really frustrated breakdancer, I'm going to check that out. I want my boy and girl to get up. That's so cool.
And it's really interesting. I mean, I genuinely have a love of all sports, and I know a lot about all sports. And so hence that green and gold jersey. When I retired and thought about my legacy for the 20 years coming, so that was 2012. 2012 I retired. The irony of the numbers, 2032. And what's my legacy for 20 years since I retired? So I wanted to leave. Did you ever read a book called Legacy, the All Blacks business book?
No, I have not read that one.
And I'm sure you've read a lot. Looks to you like you have behind, but I would add that.
That's all fake. I haven't read any of them.
Yeah, okay. Plastic. I would add that to your Audibles or your book if you read real books. It's called Legacy. And it talked about the All Blacks and the team leaving the black and white jersey in a better spot. And I thought, I can do that. How do I leave the green and gold jersey of all sports in a better spot? And you're going to love the breaking because it's a battle. So they literally will battle it out.
I've watched it online. I literally I dislocate my own arms just watching it. I love that, Nat, because the league, that your Aussie Athlete Fund now, I can see that being a serious legacy for you, right? And it's something that is much needed, especially in this country versus, say, for all of our American listeners, how would you rate, the American system to ours in terms of, that amateur level?
Yeah, and every system all around the world is different. And this is where I did get frustrated because people in this country in Australia would say, oh, where's a country in the world that does it great? And to be honest, there isn't one. Probably the UK, Great Britain, after the legacy of 2012, London 2012, has probably done it the best through a lottery system.
Yeah.
We've explored the lottery in Australia. It can't happen, so there's other ways. In the United States, ironically, because their population is so big and because they love so much sport, it's all commercially funded. The government does not support. They're not supporting LA28 and they're not supporting their sporting organisations. It's all commercial membership based because remember, your participants will pay fees that then escalate up to the high performance level. So very different structures and systems. Some of the countries in Europe actually have their athletes employed in the army system or the defense system or the police system, and they learn skills there, but they get paid. So we sort of don't have, it's considered hobby, and we have to transition back to what you asked me before. If I had the job, we have to, in this country, transition out of hobby to semi-pro. I don't want to say professional because we're not paid like that, but it is a full-time job to try and be the best in the world. So we need to find a way to compensate our athletes on that journey. And that is the legacy. I'm building an endowment fund as well so that post 32, when there's a Olympic fatigue in this country and Paralympic fatigue and sport fatigue, we can have a fund to continue to pay disbursements.
Nat, you've kept yourself relevant, all these years post the 2000, gold medal and your five-time Olympian, 5-time Olympics. You've kept yourself relevant, and what I'm hearing and what you've done is obviously keeping the green and gold and actually the Olympics in the spotlight and keeping that relevant as well. So that, as an institution, doesn't fade away. And I dare say doesn't come off the bucket lists of young athletes. Rather than be an influencer, be a real influencer.
Well, and that's it. There's dreams. When they announced Brisbane 2032 coming back to Australia from Melbourne 56, Sydney 2000, Brisbane 32, there's not many countries that get it in 3 different cities. Actually, the United States is the only other one. So for a population our size, what that did was stir the hopes and dreams of all these young athletes wanting to go to the Olympics and Paralympic Games, but it also stirred the hopes and dreams of business people and the businesses that want to be associated with the Games. And so it has really lifted our whole nation and our pride, as we saw with the Matildas. And so it really is a time to get in and back our little Aussie athletes, our little underdogs, one at a time. If you're a business out there, come and click on Aussie Athlete Fund and say hello and either donate for me or ask to be a business in our $1 Million Challenge.
So that's Aussie. Sorry, Nat. That's AussieAthleteFund.com.
.com. Yes.
AussieAthleteFund.com. And how can people connect with you too, Nat?
Well, on that website too, there will be a contact form. You can fill something in there, or as you talked about, PTY Ltd, I'm at .com as well. So NatalieCook.com is my website, and you can go and fill in a contact, say hello there. Of course, all the socials, LinkedIn, Instagram, and all of that. I don't know how to keep up though, Trav. You need socials coach that can actually, I don't know where I get contacted on a daily basis from the old-fashioned phone to did it come through Insta or did it come through LinkedIn?
It's getting worse and worse. So, like every time a new app comes out, I just go, oh, God, here we go. Got to employ another team member over in the Philippines, to manage the social media. That app. And it's just get worse and worse. And, we all suffer from infobesity, and that's the price you pay for being famous, Nat. Yeah, I'm just going to say that. There's the price you pay for winning gold medals and being famous. So your fault right there.
Well, that just named my other podcast. So you can go and check out the Price You Pay podcast in all the great sports and hear the stories of these young athletes. But, thanks, Trav, for all you do, the amazingness of this being the bucket list guy and inspiring people to get on with their bucket list. It's driven me to make sure that I live my best life through my bucket list. So
love
gold
that.
To you.
No, that is awesome. You've been awesome. Can't wait to reconnect. Guys, get around Nat Cook. Get around the Aussie Athlete Fund as well. That is such a cool legacy, and I can see that being a behemoth in the years to come. I really can. Don't leave it up to the government. That's what I say. We won't even go there. But guys, thanks heaps for tuning in once again to the Bucket List Live podcast. Nat, you're awesome. Connect with her. Thanks heaps, Nat. Out for now.
Right back at you. Thanks. See you, bucket listers.
Thanks so much for listening to the Bucket List Life podcast with the world's #1 bucket list expert, Trav Bell. For more great content, go to www.thebucketlistguy.com. We'll see you next time.